Andy, were you a Cheers fan?
I was a Cheers fan. I was a
Yeah.
Cheers fan, yeah.
Sad to see George Wendt pass away yesterday.
I saw
Um,
that. I was sad to see that too. I mean, he was such a fixture, I mean, in the bar, but on that
yeah.
show. I mean, and he did some other stuff afterwards, nothing nearly as successful as Cheers, but he was such a likable character on that show.
I mean, you when you look back at that show, and I think the season finale was like one of the highest rated ones of all time. I mean, MASH, I think, is the highest, but I mean, Cheers is right there.
Yeah,
Um, if you think about the individuals in that show, true ensemble, right? I mean, like Ted Danson was obviously the star,
yeah,
and then you had Woody Harrelson, a very early Woody
very young.
Harrelson when he had hair, so that's kind of fun. Then you had Christy Alley in there and all that stuff. I mean, and Diane, Shelley Long. I mean, so really cool ensemble cast, and he was just like I find when you're like part of an ensemble cast and you have a unique character, when you leave, you can't really stand on your own necessarily, but it's hard to find that great ensemble cast too, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's unique, and when you get it, it's so good. I mean, that show was so good for so long. So
so long, and the whole cast, right? I mean, it
yeah.
was such a good group. I mean, Rhea Perlman. I mean, Cliff
Mm.
Clavin, who the actor's name I don't recall right now, but I mean, just from top to bottom, and with transitions. I mean, when Shelley Long left, that was a major transition, and they handled it well and got better and continued. It was just such a great show. I was young, that show was on. I was young, so I'd catch it towards its end. Then I would see a lot in reruns because back in the day, Dave, you could watch things in reruns forever, and so I watched a lot.
That's
You look at shows like that, and NBC had that series of just phenomenal like Thursday night shows, right? It was Cheers. It was the one remarkable thing came out that was the Frasier spinoff, right? Where
yeah.
that where that went on with Kelsey Grammer, and then Friends and Seinfeld, and it just continued like with these just like blockbuster shows that just everybody knew, everybody loved, part of that shared experience we like to talk about, and it was awesome. And he was just such a fish. I mean, Norm, and everybody just knew that character, and that was back in the day when you could sit at a bar and drink beer all day and call it a TV show. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if that would work today. So
That's
so
right.
so rest in peace, George Wendt, and he was only 76. I mean, he was still
I know.
on the younger side of things, but it's sad to see the stars you grew up with, pass.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's like Cliff Clavin. He's now known in a lot of respects as like the voice of a Pixar. Every Pixar movie has Cliff Clavin in, or at least at one point it did. He was all sorts of characters
Yeah,
through it all. And but you talked about the Frasier spinoff. I remember, and like you, I was too young to be there in the early episodes. Had to catch them on reruns, but like near the end, it was like, who's going to be, the spinoff show? And it was a surprise when they chose Frasier because
yeah.
you're like, this guy's a doof. It had to be Cliff and Norm. They had to have a show and all that stuff. And it was Frasier, and that had a very successful run. So
Yeah. Yeah, and Woody Harrelson. I mean, Ted Danson did some other things as
yeah,
well. Kirstie Alley some other things as well. But Woody Harrelson made it the most successful film
yeah.
where he played just such a different character. Still the same quirky guy, but such a different character than Woody on the show. And so many of his roles, he really became a much more diverse actor in that sense, and enjoyable to watch. I know people gave him some grief, for some of his personal opinions over time, but he uh he's a fun actor from Natural Born Killers, if I recall. He was in that one, if I remember,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
in different comedic roles, and he's really done it well. So yeah,
yeah.
good times, good times.
Yeah, I started the clock a little early, Andy, because I didn't want to talk about this too long, but we're going to talk about it anyways. What is not a great ensemble cast is the Trump administration, Andy. It is just not a good ensemble cast, and highlighted by just the like as we have so the news has slowed down, right? Like
Yeah,
we're getting into this business as usual type of mindset in the doldrums of a real presidency versus like the panic of Doge, we talked about that last time, it's
Yeah.
kind of gone away. The mass deportations, while it's still here and there's still a lot of legal challenges that are going through, and you still have Kristi Noem, who's amazingly somehow the director of Homeland Security or the secretary of home, the whatever the title is, continuing to embarrass herself, whether she's taking pictures in front of, prison cells, or, she's in front of Congress defending a $50 million jet, or if she's trying to explain what habeas corpus is, Andy. Clearly, it's a struggle for this administration, and now they're facing the budget, which is being put out. It's going to be coming up for a vote. It's the big beautiful bill, Andy. It is what they're calling it. I mean, this is going to be a challenge for them as we go through, and the chaos of this first couple months is kind of died down. Now you actually have to govern, and it's struggling. So,
Yeah, it's a struggle on many levels. I mean, look, the show of the Trump administration is one thing. The reality of governing is another, and it is hard, right? Just like the president's finding out with Ukraine and Russia, it's hard. Just like he's finding out,
solve that, Andy. I thought that was done on Inauguration Day, right?
yeah,
We still
before.
have that? Is the
But,
war still going on?
remarkably, it
Oh,
wasn't
shit.
solved immediately
Okay.
upon election. Same thing with Gaza, right? I mean, not
Wait,
only
wait, wait.
had Gaza better.
I thought we had Trump Hotel or Trump Resort in Gaza.
Well, we might by the time Israel's done, eradicating every Palestinian from Gaza, they might open it up for the Trump Hotel. I mean, things have only escalated in violence, and interestingly, escalated in violence and less sort of who gives a shit in
Yeah.
the media. Like there's so much less attention being paid to the slaughter that's going on. It's just governing is hard, right? Actually governing is really hard. And it's sometimes hard to tell this administration whether they are ill prepared when they provide comments, whether it's SecDef getting off a plane responding to Signalgate and sort of the like, do you even know what the issue is here? Or is it deliberately, saying things that are inaccurate or trying to bend words to mean what you want them to mean when you know they don't? And that was the case yesterday with Secretary Noem, sitting before Congress, asked about habeas corpus, which look, it's a term that's gotten a lot of attention recently, just like due process, because the administration is doing things in relation to those terms in our Constitution that have made them conversation. Does the average American, are we able to spit out a definition of habeas corpus? Look, if I hadn't written about this like over the weekend, I wouldn't have probably had the definition on the tip of my tongue, right? And that's fine. When you're the Secretary of Homeland Security, you're sitting before Congress to defend the administration's actions in regards to statements being made about habeas corpus. You should be able to explain a reasonable definition, and she couldn't do that yesterday. It wasn't only not a correct definition; it was a completely wrong definition. It was a you did not pass this quiz moment. And that was weird. Like that was weird to see, and says a lot for either lack of preparation by senior officials or the I don't give a shit. We're just gonna say what we want to say, and it's wrong. Like they are challenging a fundamental constitutional right, and you should be able to talk about that, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's they have their talking points, and their talking points are we're right, you're wrong. We're doing this because the American people want us to do it, and they don't really like they claim they know that everything is rooted in the Constitution, but they really don't. And what's even more concerning is the DHS's, I guess, like her getting on to, like talking about AOC, and AOC talking about the rights of immigrants and what they can do and what they can't do and how they're going to start investigating this. We're going to start seeing these political investigations now, on a lot of different levels that, we talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice under Biden. Look what's happening in front of us. And I'll go back, and who's keeping the scorecard of all the Trump promises and all the things that he said he was going to do within the first day and hasn't done. I mean, and at what point do we sit there and call it what it is? I mean, the big thing about Doge was about, you know, flushing out. in creating government efficiency. And here we presented a budget that's going to increase the deficit. Like, so what are we really doing on these fronts? And who's challenging that? And again, the Democrats are sitting here, I think they're hoping the Republicans fall on their face, but that doesn't work. I mean, that strategy is not a successful one, Andy.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. I mean, Democrats haven't done a great job of sort of calling out some of these things. They have done some, and they have identified some of the great overstepping of this administration. And the Trump administration is keeping score because they're constantly releasing statements telling us promises, made, promises kept. And to some extent, that is true, right? To some extent, it is true, but there's a lot that isn't being done, certainly. But they just worth pausing, right? Since we're talking about this topic, like on the topic of habeas corpus, I mean, there's, look, we're not lawyers, but the basic definition is if you're arrested, you have a right to appear before a judge to discuss your charges, right? You can't just detain people without that opportunity. That's a very basic idea, and it's a constitutional right. Right? Article 1, the first part of the Constitution, Section 9 says that the habeas corpus cannot be suspended unless in cases of rebellion or invasion, right? And the administration trying to make it out to be, hey, we are in an invasion, and the courts have consistently said, like, no, we're not. Like this, the gang threat that you're trying to say, the criminal threat is not an invasion. So it's the administration again, like exaggerating and trying to do things with their language and their actions to get around those pesky constraints of the Constitution. And it's such a dangerous game, right? It's such a dangerous game. It's being played so disrespectful to the thought and process our founders put together to protect the people of these United States. It's just really sad to see. It's scary. It should scare the hell out of every American, right? It's just, whether you agree with the president in spirit or not, the actions being taken should scare the hell out of every American. If we suspend these things in one instance, they can be suspended by another president in another instance, used against each one of us. And it's just a remarkable disregard for the potential threats and implications of these types of statements and actions by the administration.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. We've got some more big things happening. Again, the budget vote should be
Yeah.
coming up, I think, today. See how that goes. The Republicans are not all on board. Maybe there's
Yeah. Yeah,
some
because
pushback
we're growing the budget, Dave. I mean, I know we've got to
there.
change segments here, but like at the end of the day, for like we talked about this on Monday a little bit, right? For everything's being done, it's a bigger fucking budget, a greater deficit. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, somehow it'll be spun one way. Andy, okay, Mama Jabor, you're going to want to skip ahead 7 minutes. That's how long our segments are. So in the podcast, skip ahead 7 minutes at this point. That's your warning. I'm telling you, we love you. Okay, Andy, um, we talked about this a couple months ago with the NFL rule changes. A lot of things that they agreed upon back then, and there are other things they put on the shelf, and they put
Yeah,
on the shelf until a period of time. That period of time is coming up here, Andy, and there's an exciting proposal that we talked about that is getting some new life, and new energy, and it looks like it might win out. And that's the reseeding of the playoff format,
yeah,
Andy. And it's not changing the playoff format, but it's reseeding the teams based on their record. So how it works today is, all the division winners, based on their record, are seeded 1 through 4. And then there are 3 wild card spots, and they are also seeded based on their record. What this proposal, and this was proposed by your Detroit Lions, what this proposal would do is take all 7 teams and just seed 1 through 7. So if you're a division winner, and we've had division winners that were, 7 and 9 before with a losing record,
yeah.
they would be at the bottom, and everybody else would be above them. But as it is today, that 7 and 9 team would be the number 4 seed, get a home game, mind you, the one through, the higher seed gets the home game, and so that would change this all around.
Yeah.
Uh, Thoughts on this proposal, Andy, as it gets ready to come to a vote?
So I'm torn on it, but I think I agree with it, right? I mean, so I'm torn on it because there's something special about winning your division, and some divisions are a lot harder than others to win any given season. Because like if you look at the NFC East, this year, you've got some competitive teams in there, maybe including your Dallas Cowboys. right? So some divisions are harder than others to win. And you look at, for example, the NFC South, the division sucks. It consistently sucks. And winning that division, you shouldn't get to host anything whatsoever. And this came about because of last year's Minnesota Vikings team going on the road with a phenomenal record. And it's like, hey, shouldn't these guys have a chance to host a game? They crushed the regular season. Why are they going on the road? I mean, it's been talked about before, but that was a great illustration of the problem. I like it, but I don't. So I think it's fair that the best records get to be rewarded for getting those great records. But I feel like it can be really hard for those divisions that are very competitive. You could have a less good record as a division winner because you've been beat up by your division rivals. Whereas a really, lousy division might have two teams surge to the top because their division's otherwise terrible. So I'm a little mixed on it. I could go either way. Won't be heartbroken if it doesn't pass. We'll see how it goes if it does pass. I think it will pass. I think it will pass this time around.
Yeah, I mean the division winner will still get a guaranteed playoff spot,
Yeah,
whereas if they just went 1 through 7, maybe they don't get a. I mean, like a 7 and 9 team would never make the playoffs. Otherwise, and I know that's rare, but your point is made. I think the NFL has done a really good job about the scheduling.
yeah,
And yes, there are years where they're like the AFC North and the NFC South. Those are bad divisions, and the way the NFL scheduling works is, you play everybody in your division twice, and then you go and play somebody every team in another conference from one division, and then similarly every team in the same conference from a division. So you'll have that commonality within the division. But you're right. I mean, there could be some divisions that are more powerful. Like that last year, your NFC North, you had three playoff teams in there. That could be the AFC North this year, or the or the NFC East this year. So we'll see how that goes. Another proposal that's going to be pushed up, and it seems like this is generating some more buzz, is the banning of the tush push.
yeah,
This has been leveraged so much by the NFL, or I'm sorry, by the Super Bowl champion Eagles, and a lot of teams try it, but they don't always do it. I've got a problem with this one, Andy, because I think like a team clearly is successful at something. It's one team, not the whole league,
yeah,
and you're now telling that team what they're doing is wrong. It's not an illegal formation. It's not an illegal, or it's not a penalty, and you can't do that. I think that this is like I know we focus only on the quarterback being pushed from behind, but what about like a wide receiver who catches a ball in the flat? And we've seen this a lot where the lineman will come in and push him
yeah.
5 or 10 yards down the line. How are we going to legislate that? I have a problem with this because I think the Eagles have found something. It works for them. Other people have tried. In the NFL, they keep replicating success, and clearly they can't. So I have a problem with that, Andy.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, Dave. I mean, we see pushing all the time. We see running backs, getting hit, and then the linemen come in and just push him up another 3, 4, 5, sometimes more yards. It's part of the game, and it's a battle of strength and determination. That's football. You know what I mean? And the tush push. Look, other teams simply can't replicate it because they don't have the beef. They don't have the O lineman in the trenches. They don't have a running back with quads bigger than most people's torsos. They don't have running backs that can come up behind him, tight ends that come up behind him and give him that strong push. It's a design play built with a team that can execute it excellently. And you're going to say, hey, this is too hard. Look, quarterbacks like Tom Brady used to run great QB sneaks, and it was successful, and it was annoying because it's such a boring play, but it works when you need a yard or 2 yards and you can master how to get those successfully. It's part of your scheme. It's part of how you plan. Like, hey, we've got to get at least 8, 9 yards, and we're going to go with our trademark play here, and it's going to work. That's part of the game. And as defenses, you figure out a way to stop it. Either stop it in and of itself, or you don't let them get in position to run that play. And the Eagles can only run that play so much. It's a hard play. It takes a lot of effort, right? And it hurts. I mean, it's a lot of guys smashing into each other very aggressively. They're not running it, 4 downs back to back, usually, right? So you've got to find a way to try and stop it. And if you can't stop it, tough, tough. Other teams have tried to copy it with some level of success for some, zero in others, because their quarterbacks aren't built to run that play. Deal with it. And look, if it gets taken away, the Eagles will never let the NFL, Eagles fans will never let the NFL forget that they were so dominant and they won the Super Bowl, and the NFL had to change the rules just to try and stop them from winning again. Where's the rule on Patrick Mahomes slowing down but picking up an extra yard or two, going out of the sidelines when he's got the ball? Like, come on, like it's a bullshit, whiny complaint by NFL owners. I hope they strike it. I hope they have the courage to strike it down and say, hey, we're just going to figure out a way to stop this.
Yeah, a couple years ago, baseball banned the shift, which was a defensive play in which there's nine players on the field. You can position them anywhere you want. Baseball players realized, or the baseball teams realized that a lot of players pulled the ball to the side that they're hitting on. So they would shift players to that way to the point where you could have like seven players all on one side of the field and such. And so a couple of years ago, the baseball banned that, but every team was doing that, and it was creating a detriment to the game of baseball in that it wasn't very exciting to watch. It was really loosening up some of the strategies and such. This is different. Like this is I think these are completely different things, and I hope they strike it down as well. So okay, we're gonna welcome Mama Jor back into the pod. So thanks, Mama. You skipped through that 7 minutes there, so appreciate that. She gave some good feedback last week. Andy, I can't figure out how to do the transcript. Some people want to read the transcript, but I can't figure that out. But I'll keep the feedback coming, Mama Jabor. We really enjoy it. Okay, Andy, coming up on Monday, this is Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about, we've talked. Obviously, we're very upfront about our service. We're very upfront about our deployments to combat zones. And unfortunately, that has come with loss of life. And Memorial Day is our national holiday to celebrate and remember those who gave that ultimate sacrifice. Again, this is not to be confused with Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a celebration of all who have served and have given to that life of service or that time of service. Memorial Day is really about those who have died, and obviously that comes mostly with remembering the wars we've been in and some of that. Last year, Andy, you and I did I thought a really neat thing is we did a memorial ruck. And a ruck, for those who may be new to the pod, is just put it on a backpack, put in some weight in there. It could be a weight of however much you want, and then walking a distance. I did 6 miles, Andy, and I think you did 12 miles. So you doubled me up there, but you're not double better than me. So make that clear. But we did our memorial walk. We posted some pictures of it. I think it was a fun time. It's coming up this weekend, Andy.
Yeah.
Are you in for round two, second annual Ruck March?
So I am, Dave. So I think we touched on it briefly, and I was saying, one of the challenges I have, I'm actually going in for my following cancer treatment today, and that leaves me with, let's just say, a lot less bowel control than I normally have. So one of the challenges when I go running, so my experience last night, I was out running, is like invariably I have to clench really hard at times to keep everything inside that's supposed to be inside. So I was nervous about the ruck because, like, what if I, listen, listeners, TMI, right? What if I shit myself while I'm out there trying to honor, those who have fallen? I didn't want that to be the case, but I'm confident I can come up with a course that will give me opportunities to make an emergency run if needed. So I do intend to go out there. I don't know if I can do the longer distance I did last year again this year, but that's really not the point, right? So
Right.
the point is to get out there and reflect upon and think about our brothers and sisters that we've known and those over history's time that have fallen in service to this nation, and given that ultimate sacrifice. And for me, it was really a special moment to sort of reflect on that last year. And then I picked up my wife and my eldest son, and they did a lap with me, and then went out and completed a few more. And I really felt good about doing that and having sort of our own way of remembering, those who have fallen. So I am up for it. I'm looking forward to doing it. So I'll be out there sometime on Monday. I'll get a picture and share it. And I think it's a nice way to, sort of pause and remember those who've given the ultimate sacrifice, especially at such a time when it's so crazy those who have fallen with a patch on their shoulder, the U.S. flag. I think it's important to honor them in one way or another.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that's the least we can do. And again, we don't call special attention to us. It's not a look at me moment. It is a moment of us. And each person deals with this their own ways. But I think it's a really cool thing. And again, you're right. The mileage doesn't matter, right? Like we chose whatever we chose to do. You can do half a mile, a lap around the track, whatever you want to do. I think the important part is the remembrance of those who have fallen and given that sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy today and somewhat of the freedoms that get trampled on today. We'll see. But I think it'll be a very exciting. Andy, I had a pretty cool thing that happened over the weekend. I mentioned I went up to my dad's place to kind of clear it out and get ready for selling his house and such. And there was a book there, and it was a book by it looks like it was a self-published book. It's out on Amazon or whatnot, but it was by this individual. And we're like, what, why would dad have this book? This seems like a really weird book. You flip open the inside, there's an inscription in there from the author to my dad. And I was like, oh, this is a little weird. And my brother said, hey, I think he was mentioned in this book. And so, my dad was a very private person. He really didn't reveal a whole lot about what he did, and all the adventures that he went on. And I just assumed, in a lot of respects, my dad was just a desk office individual, and so on and so forth. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Just that's what I assumed. And so it was interesting. I did find references to my dad in the book that he was called out in the book, and it was just kind of neat to see because he had done some work in Panama during some of the conflicts in Panama and the drug wars around there. I thought it was just really cool to see that. So, as we reflect on my dad being a service member, and it was just kind of cool to see some of that play out. I thought it was interesting.
That is cool. I think, as kids, invariably, we don't appreciate our parents' stories very well, right? Like we know they've done stuff, we know they've lived through stuff. We're not as curious about it as we probably should be in most cases, and we don't usually understand it. 'Cause a lot of times parents just don't want to talk about it. They don't have time to talk about it. They're doing a million other things, and it's just hard sometimes to connect that. But like most of us have, family, parents, uncles, grandparents, whoever it might be and they've lived fascinating lives, and we don't really appreciate that. So I'm glad you had a chance to sort of see and think about some of the, times of your father's life and what he's contributed to this country and what he's done as a man, that helped shape him who he was. And you've had this time with your family, as you guys remember your father during some of these moments. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And again, I think while Memorial Day is focused on those who have fallen, you can't help but sort of think about the service a little bit more broadly at the same time. Those that are serving, those that are deployed, like we've talked about with our, sons in the military now. We honor those who have fallen, but it's a great time to also just appreciate everybody that served and sort of just think about that sacrifice, because there's sacrifices besides the ultimate sacrifice that every service member goes through. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting out there and honoring the fallen with you, Dave. And if anybody wants to join us wherever you are. You can walk with or without a ruck, however you want to do it. We'd love to hear about it, see your picture, whatever you want to share. But get out there and join us if you want. It was maybe Friday will touch on the inspiration for it, Dave. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, I think that works out good. So yeah, I agree, everyone. Please feel free to join us, share your pictures, and we'll post ours out on Blue Sky, and I think it'll be a fun thing to do. So, all right, Andy, I didn't want to like I had other topics on the political side to get into some of the consumer sentiment reports and some of the Tesla stuff. Our boy Elon has decided he's gonna take a back seat from politics, Andy. He thinks he's done enough. Yeah, I think he's done enough.
He's
I think his shareholders and board members are saying, "Hey, you've done enough. Get the fuck out." So because our stocks are tanking and all that fun stuff. So, but I just didn't want to be a downer on a Wednesday, Andy. So,
No, we can come back and hit it, Dave, because you're right. I mean, the damage he's done is part of the reason why consumer sentiment is down.
yeah,
It contributed to it, and nobody wants to hear from Elon Musk anymore, to include the administration, who has not discussed him in quite some time. Like he's a non non-touchable topic because it just brings the polls down even further. So there's definitely things we could get into. Maybe we'll get into some of that on Friday, but appreciate the positive discussion. Love talking football. There's some good stuff happening in the world of the NFL, so it's nice to have that back. In addition to, Dave, we didn't talk about, anyone talk about the NBA playoffs, but go Knicks. Go Knicks.
Go Knicks. Go Knicks. We should talk a little bit about NBA playoffs. I think it's really good. So, all right, Andy, with that, I will catch up with you on Friday.